Welcome once again, everyone, to Riding Tiger with Arijit. I'm sure that you are doing fabulous and fine, and you're doing, of course, great in wherever you are. So, just to start our session today, what I feel that I'll be probably saying good morning and good evening and good afternoon at the same time. One of the sole reason is our guest today is from US and it's a daytime over there. Welcome, Jay, to Riding Tiger with Arijit.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Super. So Jay is a seasoned entrepreneur. Not only that, he's a filmmaker and a producer and doing massive level of work sitting in US. And of course, he loves to do a lot of fun with his crazy long hair. And I love that actually. I love the craziness that he has got and a beautiful smile in his face. Jay, why don't you share a little bit about your life journey? How did you start your filmmaking career and how did you become a producer? Over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and hello to everybody, whatever parts of the world you're in, day, night, middle of the day, middle of the night, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm born and raised in New York. Filmmaking and technology and were not really anything I originally thought of doing. I was into sports as a kid, and my dream and my goal was to be a professional tennis player. And I was good. I wasn't the best in the world, but I was quite good. And many people, coaches and things, felt I should definitely pursue that and go that route, which led me to dropping out of high school to pursue that career. And but unfortunately, we didn't really come. My father didn't know anything about sports. We didn't really come from this type of resources that you need to really pursue a career like that. And so I had to work to cover my costs, to pay for travel and coaching and everything else, which is great and nothing wrong with that at all. But just different path. And I started really working on tennis rackets as a way, which is an easy way to make the money being around the sport and all that sort of stuff, and started seeing that there were so many different issues going on and why rackets felt differently, why they played differently. And I just started tinkering, and really without any experience or background in any way, shape or form, I just started figuring out a different way to do things. And when I would do that for other people I was training with, they were like, "What did you do to my rackets?" Like, and I was scared, like I was going to get in trouble or something. And they were like, "I've never played this well in my life. Like, I don't know what you did, but my rackets feel better." And little by little, that started evolving and turned into my first business, which sidetracked my professional career, which, that was obviously my journey. And I started my first business working with tennis players, customizing, designing, and stringing rackets for them, which was, a lot of work, taught me an incredible amount of things about life and about people. But it also enabled me to travel all over the world, which I might not have been able to do. I mean, not every country that I would still like to go to, but, I've been to Australia, maybe, I don't know, 8 times, 10 times. I mean, the average person does not get to say that. And I feel very fortunate, that I got to be there, and, Europe and all sorts of different places that were just really great experiences. And I learned a lot about different things. I mean, I was raised with an international mentality. My father was born and raised in Europe and came to the States through the war, at the end of the war. And he raised me with some European, cultures and backgrounds and thinking. And my mother wasn't there, but she was Middle Eastern and born in Israel. And so I had these things genetically of just like, openness to the world. Like, I didn't see, oh, you're tall, you're short, you're white, you're black, you're Jewish, you're Christian. I didn't see those things. I saw them, like I understood, I could tell, okay, you're different, whatever, but I never looked at it as a bad thing. I was always intrigued. I wanted to learn more about other cultures. I always used to remember when we would go, to Paris or whatever, and the Americans would hang out with the Americans. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, you're in France, hang around with French people. Like, that's the beauty, like learn from their culture, learn those things. So anyway, I did that for a while, and being from New York, I was also very much around the hospitality world, and entertainment is part. These worlds all clash and collide at one point or another. You know, people
True.
that are into sports or into film and are into music and are into fashion, and these worlds just started little by little coming together, and I ended up being at the center of it. Not by design, not on purpose. I wasn't looking to do it, but it just kind of gravitated towards me. So I knew models, and I knew actors, and I knew club owners, and I knew artists, and I just knew all these things. And little by little, I just started seeing there was a lot of interest in that. It was exciting for me. I understood what they were going through on the creative side. So whether you're an athlete or an artist, or I understood what they were going through. I couldn't do necessarily what they did, but I understood what they were going through, and I understood where they were trying to go. And I would watch them try to explain that to other people, and those people didn't understand them. And I was somehow able to speak their language, but I was also able to speak the business language. And that kind of somehow got incorporated into all that I did. And at a certain point, I just kind of burnt out from being on the road all the time and doing all that work. And I just needed to move on. I realized it was time to move on. And this is from 20 years of being on the road, 25 to 30 weeks a year, and working with every top player you can possibly imagine. And I just was like, I need to do something else. If I'm going to do anything else with my life, I need to move on. But I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have I didn't have this aha moment yet of like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like, I just really had no clue. And the consensus was either be involved in some sort of resort, sort of high-end, cool resort sort of thing to run that, or to be a producer. And I said to everybody that told me, I was like, I don't know anything about producing. I don't even know. I wouldn't know what to do. And they're like, you'll figure it out. I was like, basically, I said, well, I don't know what a producer does. And they said, well, you're a producer. And all a producer really does is they get things done. And which is true. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. But really, that's really what it is. And so I just segued into it, and I started, my company, Effluence, and with no real clear, we're going to do this. Like, you see now, you have to do that with a company. You have to have, your mission statement and this and that. I didn't have any of that. I was just like, I'm going to do it. And let's see what happens. And I mean, it worked out fairly well. I mean, we little by little started doing things. We started doing music videos and commercials, and then we did events, and then we just all these different things. And that kind of ultimately led me to where we are now. So yeah, I mean, that's a very long answer to a very short question. Sorry about that. But that's how I ultimately got into it. I mean, it wasn't, I went to school and I learned and I did this and I worked under this production, that production. That wasn't my path. My path has never been that.
So you actually learn from life. So you don't need to go for any kind of certification if you're learning from life.
Yeah.
And when we are talking about basically producing a movie, and I'm talking to a producer, there is a lot of things that a producer usually does. That includes, of course, finding the right kind of investor, finding the right kind of market, finding the right kind of partner, finding the distribution channel, talking to probably the possible actor and actress. Maybe sometimes finding the right kind of talent is the biggest challenge in a producer's life. It can be in front of camera, it can be the background of the camera, it can be the post-production, it can be the pre-production. But that's a challenge, because I have been through that process in my life, and till date we are doing it. One of my invested company is into the media entertainment, so I know how much it goes. So talking about the same, could you please explain it from the point of view of Hollywood? Because if I am sharing it, probably I'll be sharing it from the Bollywood's and European perspective, but when you are sharing, you'll be sharing more on the Hollywood perspective, and that's totally a different kind of ballgame and structure. World knows it. Come on. So could you please explain a little bit how smooth and hard and probably challenging it is to start a production sitting in US, and then probably go for a massive level of distribution and finding right kind of investor and partner for you?
Right. Well, so as I'm sure you know, I mean, the US is a big place. And everywhere you go is a little bit different, but it is generally there's the Hollywood mentality or the Hollywood way, so the studio system, and then there's the independent system, which I mean, I really, I mean, Americans, I guess, and really New Yorkers really started the indie movement a long time ago, and some of the greatest talent came through that. And still today, more and more people you speak to, big producers, big studios, they always try their best to keep an eye on what the indie world is doing, even though they tend to try and crush it. They know that the big talent comes from that. The Bob Dylans and the Scorseses came from the indie world. They didn't start in the studio world. So if you want to see what the next trend is, you look to indie. You don't look to the establishment. So the Hollywood way is really, or the studio way is very unique. It's very closed, very difficult to break into, very old, antiquated systems. And that's why you see, they churn out the same thing, kind of over and over again. There's the big blockbuster, the tentpole movies, now obviously comics are now big, remakes. I mean, that's what they do over and over again. They're not the huge risk takers. They have incredible amounts of money to put behind these projects, so they can do whatever they want, which is on one hand really cool, but on the other hand, it's restrictive because they have these different systems in different ways. So from the indie perspective, it's certainly trickier to get a film made. You have to know how to put the package together, and there's so many different pieces of the puzzle, and that's really the tricky part, and that's really what has led us to developing this model that we're working on and fundraising for, to really help fix that system, because it is very broken. It is very, very disconnected. And you mentioned some of the things, but the way you find actors, and the way you find investors, and the way you decide if your project is good, and the way you put your crew together, and the way you get your marketing, these things are all totally different.
Yes.
They need different skill sets. And there's no connectivity of one to the other. There's no, oh, well, if you do this, then you just connect that to that and connect that to that. Like most businesses have that. If you're in fashion, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in retail, if you're in food, there's a certain process. Well, you come up with a formula and you make sure it's legal and it's good and nobody's going to die. And then you find this, and then you come up with a packaging. And when you have that, then that goes into the packaging, and the packaging goes in. It's not how film works at all. Film is just, throw them all together and let's hope for the best. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it just fails miserably. So, you have to kind of really, the expression, I don't know if you know, jack of all trades or Jill of all trades. I mean, you really have to be wearing many, many different hats. And on the one hand, that's cool and fun and exciting, but it's also, it makes it more difficult, for no reason. Like, there's incredibly great projects and super talented people from all over the world that can't get through. They just can't get in the door. Nobody is hearing them. Nobody's listening to them. And I think that's a sad thing for the industry. I think that's sad for the world. So we're really working on a model that really helps, that will ultimately fix that. It will change that whole model, that will make it certainly better for anybody in the independent world, but it'll even make it better for the studio world, because it'll enable them to really do the projects that they'd like to do, but just aren't able to. They're not able to sift through that. They just don't have, the bandwidth to do it. And that's really one of the things we're working on. So it's a pretty exciting time.
Super. You know what, Jay, I would love to share you some of the incidents from my life. So when I started my entrepreneurial journey, of course, I used to be called as a crazy mad person, because I was talking game development in 1998 in India. Probably that's pretty mature market in US. 98 people used to understand gaming, but at least from Indian perspective, there was at least no one who can actually understand what gaming is. And I was talking to a lot of movie producers, a lot of movie directors, and I was hopping from one place to another place, mainly in my own town, which is Calcutta, and we call it as Tollywood, if you don't know that. So Hollywood replicated as Bollywood, Bollywood replicated as Tollywood. So in Tollywood, nobody could understand what the hell I'm talking about. Fortunately, there was a person, a Punjabi gentleman, who was just getting a shock because I was talking 3D. I was talking visual effects in front of him and I was showing him demo. And he was like, oh my God, you can do this. How big is your team? So I was just telling him that I'm the only person who actually started this company. I'm just a small buy in the big ocean. It's like, and that time I was probably 18, 19 years old, learning economics in college, left engineering and doing all those kind of technical geeky stuff. So he actually gave me an option to use his office address and he gave me a chair to sit inside a movie production house. So I saw how actor actress used to come, how director used to come, how the whole entire process used to happen. And from that small understanding, when I became a little bit of successful, I shouldn't say that I'm a successful person as of now yet. I actually went back to the Tollywood industry and then wanted to give back. I recruited, I think, almost more than 300 plus actor, actress, models to become game character into our games. And of course, give a lot of fresh commerce into the market as a platform. And from that platform, a lot of them got chance in MTVs, fashion shows, you know, the FTVs and a couple of more. I know how deep you are talking because this industry needs a platform which should connect all these parameters together so that it becomes a process, a standard process. And kudos to you that you are coming up with such kind of platform, thinking of people that they should interact with each other in a common platform and create the creative world into a complete different kind of dimension altogether. Jay, would you like to share a small bit about what exactly you are trying to build? Not in details, but maybe a brief so that people can understand that what's coming up in the market.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, you really hit it on the head. I mean, what we're developing is a platform for the entertainment industry globally that will bring projects from concept to distribution all on one platform, engaging creatives, fans, and investors. So the model is really to bring those pieces together, give each of those different groups the tools that they need so that they can focus on what they do best and have the resources to do all the other things so that their process can be more streamlined. Remove all the biases that are inherent in the industry so that really the project can be seen as the quality of the project, not because it came from Africa or it came from Venezuela or it came from Alabama or it came from LA. It shouldn't make a difference. A great project is a great project. And we've seen that, how, you know, feature film from Korea can win, you know, Academy Awards and be critically acclaimed, which 20 years ago was never even a thought. So there's talent everywhere. There's people that are eager to be involved and help everywhere, but they're not able to get to each other. So to give the investors the opportunity to make decisions as they would any other investment, as opposed to, oh, it's cool, but they don't know what happens. They can't follow the money. They can't see anything. And it's this crazy black hole, which why would an investor get involved in that? To fans that want to learn and want to see, and they want to support the project. You know, they want to, you know, you tell anybody, like I went to a film set, I was running a film set, they're so excited. They want to know everything, not just what actor was there, but they're curious about, well, how did they pick that location? And what was the food like on set? Or that costume was amazing. How did they come up with this? But nobody gets to that. You don't get to see that. So when you can give that to the audience, of course, they're going to support it. And of course, they're going to tell their friends about it. So it really creates this global ecosystem where people can collaborate, talk to one another, share ideas, support each other, and really create incredible opportunities, which we feel really will have an incredible impact around the world. And we'll be able, you know, not only a financial impact where people can get jobs, which is great, but you can learn from each other. We can learn from each other's cultures, and we can really do things to save little things like, you know, waste management and water and how to purify air, just little things that we'll learn, and just the amazing projects that will really get to see the light of day, that just are not getting it done right now. And just one quick little thing, not to go on too long, but just so people understand the difference between, what indie is and what studio is. So, a studio film is a film that is owned by a studio, period. That's it. That is a differentiator. So if Sony owns the film from the beginning all the way through, it's a studio project. If film has a budget of $100 million, but it is not owned by that studio, it is an independent film. An independent film is not just a film that, a couple of kids shot on their camera that only their grandmother is going to see. It's a film that was just done with different resources, with different tools. And there's a chance that the studio maybe will be involved on the distribution side, but they didn't own it. They didn't have full control over the creative part. And I say that, I've been asked to help in certain projects, that were $80 million films that were not studio films. So it really is something where people will be able to watch these films and be blown away at their quality, be blown away at the talent they'll get to see on screen. And that really is just an incredibly beautiful thing. So that's, that's an overview of what I'm on.
Totally agree. And Jay, if people don't understand this, I would love to give them a small bit of understanding. When somebody is talking about making an indie film or probably creating a full-fledged feature film, it can be anything. It can be a short film as well. It doesn't matter. There is a huge industry which is there in films, which is direct, number one, which is indirect, which people probably don't understand. If you are running your business, probably you're running maybe your small and medium business, maybe you are an MSME, maybe you are a startup, and you want to probably go for a good number of brand building. There are companies who are utilizing indie films to make their brand popular and to connect with a lot of different variety of people. For an example, if you're making a movie and inside the movie you have probably a cafe scene, you can always promote your cafe inside that particular indie movie. It makes a lot of sense. If you are a jewelry designer, you can probably connect people like Jay and say that, hey, you know what? I have got these kind of jewelries. I want to make my product popular. So could you please help me to maybe use that jewelry inside your movie? It can be a win-win situation for both the parties. Now, if we are talking about something related to post-production, there is a huge number of studios who are actually doing all those kind of post-production work. And there, all these IT guys, all these animators, all these VFX guys, they are getting job. So if you look at the entire structure, it's a full-fledged individual incorporation which works in harmony and with full-fledged speed. We need to understand film is not about only entertainment. It's about education, it's about execution, it's about talking about culture, it's about giving an experience, it's about optimizing people's mindset inside a movie theater. Right. Would love to take you to a situation when there were a lot of disturbing situation happened in some country. They started running movies wherein heroes used to beat the villains and probably beat the bad kings and queens. Right. So people who are watching those movies inside the movie theater hall, their anger, their grudge actually went off within that 3 hours movie. It didn't happen outside. We need to understand how mindset works. This is not about movies we are talking about. We are talking about telling a story, connecting with the world. Thank you, Jay, for all these insights, and thank you for creating an exciting platform. I'm sure that we're going to see this very soon. And of course, we're going to handshake with each other and make things possible to make the world beautiful. One last question to you, Jay. This is what I do in each and every talk show of mine. I'm so sorry about this. I usually ask a rapid fire question, but I'll be asking you a different question, not a rapid fire one.
Okay.
Imagine that you are sitting in a park, and whom would you like to sit with, and what question you want to ask to him or her?
Ooh. Wow, that's a good question. That's a tough question. As you were saying that, I mean, the amount of people that were flashing through my head, from Einstein to Moses, was just endless. I don't know that I would have a hard time picking one person, to be perfectly honest. I mean,
What comes in your head instantly?
I mean, Einstein and Moses were the first two that came to head, with Bill Gates and Richard Branson as thrown in there. I would just kind of be like a cool, kind of bunch of cool cats, getting together. And weirdly or interestingly, and maybe it's the hair, Beethoven somehow popped into my head very recently as someone who I kind of felt some sort of weird connection with, and I don't know why. I mean, I've listened obviously to the music when I was a child and over the years, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm fascinated by humans. So as much as those people would be so interesting and cool and exciting, I'd love to meet, a single father who raised his kids and find out what his journey was like, or a single mom who, just somehow figured out a way to be a beautiful person and help her children, through the struggles of life. So I get something out of everybody that I meet. I really do. So yeah, I'm sorry if that's not the answer that people are looking
No,
for.
that's deep. That's deep. That's
Yeah.
deep. I mean, if you are thinking of someone who is a single father or single mother and you want to talk to him or her, understanding their life, that's deep. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, but that would be beautiful. It's beautiful though. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, Jay. So see you
My
soon.
pleasure.
And we
Yeah,
will
see you
meet
soon.
once again. I'm sure that we'll be watching the platform to come forward and then probably execute and be there in the market, and we can rock and roll with that. Thank you so
That'd be
much.
awesome.
High five
Thank
for
you.
this. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much.
man. Thank you. Bye.